The focus of this video is going to be trapezoids and isosceles trapezoids. In the first example here, we are given that segment GH is a median of trapezoid ABCD. We don't know if it's an isosceles trapezoid or not, we just know it's a trapezoid and we know that that's a median. A couple of things to remember. First, a median meets at the midpoint, so that means that G and H are both midpoints, which means these are congruent segments and these are congruent segments. The second thing to remember is that the midpoint, or the median, the mid-segment, is the average of the two bases for your triangle. So first, let's go ahead and find Y. That's going to be the easier ones. H is a midpoint, so these segments are congruent. Segment BH and segment HC are congruent. Segment BH is congruent to segment HC, therefore 7 is equal to 2y minus 3. We solve to get y is equal to 5. The second is that our segment that is the median, that mid-segment here, is exactly half of the sum of the two bases. Okay, so if I were to just use variables, and let's call this A and B and C, we could state that A plus B is equal to 2C's, or A plus B over 2 equals C. So applying that here, I can add my bases. 2x plus 5 plus 4x and plus 1, set that equal to 2 times this segment. 2 times 36 is 72. That's what this is equal to. We perform all the algebra, we solve for x, and find x to be equal to 11. Our second trapezoid problem here is another one of those problems where I give you one piece of information, that's the only information we can use to solve for x, and then I use that value of x to determine if any other criteria has been met. In this case, I tell you it's a trapezoid, no more specific than that. Then you have to use the value of x to determine if it's a more specific trapezoid, mainly that it's an isosceles trapezoid. So, the properties of a trapezoid as far as our angles go. All I know is that if I have a trapezoid, my consecutive angles that go along the legs, these two angles and these two angles, are supplementary. That's what I know with the angles of a trapezoid. Therefore, I can state that 8x plus 6 plus 4x plus 6 equals 180. If I was told it's isosceles, then my base angles are congruent. I'm not told it's isosceles. I cannot use this property. These are supplementary. These are supplementary in every trapezoid. Doing the algebra here, combine my like terms, subtract the 12 on both sides, divide both sides by 12, we get x equals 14. Now, I know that x is equal to 14. If this is an isosceles trapezoid, then my base angles would have to be congruent. I'm going to take 14 and substitute it in for x. I want to find the measure of angle z. That's going to be 8 times 14 plus 6. That's 118 degrees. This is not an isosceles trapezoid. Since angle Z and angle O are base angles and not congruent, zoid is not isosceles. If those were both 120 degrees, then it's isosceles. Since they're not, it's not an isosceles trapezoid.